some possible world, God exists in that possible world. And then I'm imagining, if what you're saying is true, there's some possible world where God does not exist, correct?
There is some physically possible world where God does not exist, yes.
So in that world then, let's just take the notion of God very vaguely as some non-contingent being, or I'm not sure how to say it, but as some perfect being or some powerful being or whatever superlative we want to use. Would it be safe to say that in that possible world that there is no necessary being, logically necessary being?
If there is a metaphysically necessary being in one world, there is one in every world. And it's just, the way these terms are used, if there is if any metaphysically necessary proposition, including any logically necessary proposition, if it's true of our world, it's true of any world there must be, there could be, and therefore that would imply if there is a God were metaphysically necessary, then there would be a God in all metaphysically possible worlds. But if there is God who is not metaphysically necessary, then there is a metaphysically possible world in which there is no God. Yes.
So I'm struggling with that. That's counterintuitive to me. Maybe I'm feeling the force of planning that here, but I guess perfect. It wouldn't be fallacious to say that a perfect being, a non-metaphysically necessary God, is not as perfect as a metaphysically necessary God.
Well, a God that both exists and not exists would be more perfect than one that merely exists, perhaps. It would have an additional property. But perfection, God is the most perfect possible being. I don't ask for more than that. But what I'm suggesting is that a being who exists as metaphysical necessity is not a possible being, and therefore, there are clearly some properties God can't have on anybody's account, including Platon's. God can't have the property of both being good and bad, and among the properties God can't have, I wish to suggest, is metaphysical necessity.
I wonder, Richard, you said more about the cross of Christian Platonism. So, imagine that you think that God is.
I have to talk loud, but this is clear.
Sure. Yeah. So, suppose I believe in a realm of Platonic objects. I think they obey certain metaphysical laws, and I don't think God is responsible for these laws. He finds himself confronted with them. The worry you raise is that this constrains God.
Yes.
And I'm guessing what the Christian Platonist would say is, well, sure, in a sense, but not in an objectionable sense. God is still able to do anything that's metaphysically possible. So he satisfies all the usual definitions of omnipotence. So, why is this an objectionable kind of constraint on God? If there is
Objectionable kind of constraint, because what is he doesn't determine what is metaphysically possible, and yet something else does. That's what is the case.
Yeah.
Whereas according to me, metaphysical possibility is just a matter of sentences, and human sentences, and the way we use words and so on. But on this Platonist picture, there are these realities up there, and some of them determine what God can't do, and they're just as real as God. That's the problem.
Right, so the theistic Platonist, I'm imagining, will say, well, what's so bad about that? Why is that such a costly thing? After all, God on my picture still is omnipotent. He can do anything logically and metaphysically possible.
Well, because
What
determines what is metaphysically possible lies outside him. That is the problem. That is to say, there are things that determine what things, reality is just as real as God, which determine what God can do. Whereas on my sort of rival picture, God can do anything, but not all human sentences make sense to describe actions. The limits to God, that you can't make anything exist and not exist at the same time, I and the Platonists agree, God can't do that. But I say this is not because anything from outside limits God, it's just that there's a certain human sentence which doesn't ultimately make sense. We humans put words together in such a way that they entail a contradiction. That's what we've done here. That just means they don't describe anything. Whereas the Platonist is that there is a necessary proposition saying what can be and can't be, and that constrains, actually does constrain what God can do, or might do, for nothing constrains what God can do. It's just human sentences been captured sometimes.
So is it a kind of Anselmian intuition that leads you to think that the picture of God you've got is a more impressive being? I mean, the God you're postulating is more impressive in a certain way?
My God is unlimited. Yes, he's unlimited by anything outside himself. Yes. I think that is more, and for that reason, a much simpler being, and therefore for that reason, given a simpler explanation is more probably true than a complicated one, more likely to exist. And of course it's it's always been a common Christian view that God is in some sense a very simple being. And I'm saying this trying to see the concept.
In your view, I'm trying to get to the simplicity versus complexity. Is divine complexity for you a metaphysical necessity?
I think God is very simple. I think God is not limited by all these propositions and so on. There aren't any such propositions. Full stop. God is very simple because he is a personal being who is just has the kinds of properties that make someone a person. To be a person, you have to have some sort of knowledge, some sort of power, some sort of freedom of choice, and some sort of length of life. God is very simple because he has zero limits to his power, his knowledge, his freedom, his length of life. And I think actually that I describe it in terms of four properties. I have reasons I won't go into now to say that they can be boiled down to two. That is to say, God is simple because he has very limitless degrees of two or three very simple properties. That's all there is to the supreme governing power of the universe. Whereas on this rival picture, there are all these propositions determining what will happen. And whether you put them inside God or put them outside God, they are either making God complex or limiting him in various ways. And I'm saying my view is much fairer to the Christian tradition, which is a very simple view, as a simple being. It presents him as unencumbered in any way, and that is a very strong Christian theistic conviction. And the alternative doesn't ultimately, in my view, make sense.
So Richard, you said that there is, I think I heard you say, there is some very deep reason why God must exist. So I just want to be clear. So in your view, given that God does exist, he had to exist. It's just that had to is not metaphysical necessity.
Well, I'm inclined to think that, yes. But as I say, I think it's a little too deep for us to understand why that must be. people who postulate metaphysical necessity think they know why that must be. Aquinas said, in the word come, we may understand the nature of God, he says, but we will never comprehend it. What he meant by that is we will never understand why it is the case that the God had that nature. I think that's right. I don't wish to deny there is some very deep reason why there is a God in charge of the universe. But I do wish to deny that it's happened in this sort of way, and my denial of this means that there is a metaphysically possible world in which there is no God. For some very deep reason that can't be. I have no idea what that would be.
I'm wondering how strange, so it seems to me that things are getting strange if you try to describe your view in Christianity as a possible world. For this reason, as you set things up, for God to be a necessary being, there'd be all these propositions and sentences which look for all the world like they're possible, but they'll turn out to be impossible. And that's a weirdness there. But now when I think about possible worlds, and I think presumably for many of them, possibly God exists at that world. God exists in our world, presumably, so it's possible that he exists here. But ours isn't the only possible world in which God possibly exists.
We're talking about metaphysical possibility.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
You tell me if I don't.
It is, on my view of the nature of God, it is metaphysical. He exists in this world, and it's metaphysically possible that he will exist in all sorts of other worlds, but there must be a world in which, metaphysically possible world in which he does not exist.
Yeah, that's the bit that I'm wondering about. I mean, suppose he exists in all but one of these possible worlds. Why should it be that just his existing in that one additional possible world would generate all these logical absurdities?
Because there are innumerable possibilities in which he doesn't exist. The possible worlds, metaphysical possible worlds, are traditionally, as it were, individuated by the set of propositions, let's say, which describe them. And therefore, of course, I could describe this world as being about God, and that seems to be a possible world. And there are some places in this world that differ from ours, but could differ without God. So, I mean, that's just one, of course, so there are.
You alluded to your opponents, and they're taking these found principles, that constrain God, and explaining that by them originating with God in the first place. And why are you uncomfortable with that?
The question is why do these principles originate with God? That is to say, why is that God the cause of the proposition 2 plus 2 equals 4 being true, rather than the cause of 2 plus 2 equals 5 being true? And one says, well, there's no reason for it, it's just a brute fact about God that he makes this one and not that one. Then that makes God a very complicated thing. It's not that by an act of will that he makes these. His nature is such as to consider all the necessary propositions that there might be, and vast infinity, and others that in fact are necessarily false, but there could be a God which they were part of. Any such God is going to be extremely complicated in having these as brute facts unconditioned by, not resulting from any other divine property. The alternative is to put them outside God and say, well, they determine God, how he behaves, and that cuts God down to size. And for the reasons that I gave, I think a God in charge of the universe is more likely to be simple than complicated, or rather it's more likely that a simple God is in charge of the universe than a complicated God.
Well, I get Occam's razor, you know, it makes sense, but it seems to me, well, why couldn't God be the one exception to that?
The one exception in being having all these propositions built into it. Well, Occam's razor is a form, an aspect of the principle of simplicity, that we should believe that the simpler explanation is more probably true. If you are saying, well, it might be the case that there is this very, very complicated God in charge of the universe. Well, it might be, but it's less and less probable the more you postulate how complicated he is. Even if it's logically possible that there be such a God, it's a lot less likely than the alternative, that he's not burdened with these propositions.
I just see it a little bit like the about like election and predestination. If supposedly if God gives us free will, then somehow he's not sovereign, which to me is a straw man. I don't get it. You know, it's a non sequitur to me. I don't get that. So to me, if he creates and gives us free will, and it originates with him, I guess you're saying in that sense he's becoming more complicated also.
I wasn't going into this issue of free will and predestination. I think that
I was just using that as an example.
I think we can discuss this probably this issue without bringing that in.
I'm going to jump in on the possible world bandwagon. So I take it that it's a reasonable thing to say that God actualizes possible worlds. That he has to sort of control it. He's in that sort of charge of the universe.
Stop a moment. Depends how you count possible worlds, but in the sort of terminology I was using, possible worlds are a set of propositions describing the total state of things. There is a God belongs to a possible world. Now, on the picture I've been describing, he belongs to every possible world, but all that he does, what he does is he brings about the truth of the other propositions that are in that world. It's not that he stands outside the possible worlds and brings one about. He's a member of God. There is God, as I said, if you consider it in proposition, in terms of a member of each possible world, but he's responsible for the rest of the world, and he's responsible for the actual world having the character it does, yes.
I suppose if there are innumerable possible worlds in which he doesn't exist,
Yes.
I have a hard time thinking of how he has the command over the actual world. Because it would, in order to have such a command over which world is, and I realize, I might be missing something about the way you describe his relation to the actual world. However, it seems to diminish him in some way. Is my point that
I think you're
if he were to be
reifying.
prior to.
Yes, I think you're reifying possible worlds rather too much, as it were.
Yeah.
The only world that really exists is this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And God's responsibility to say there are these other metaphysical possible worlds is just to say there are other ways this world might have been. Of course, God, apart from his existence, God is responsible for all the way this world is and for it not being a different possible world. But therefore, most of the other possible worlds are ones which the reason they aren't the actual world is because he has determined that they aren't the actual world. But I also want to say there are metaphysical possible worlds in which he doesn't exist. But to say that, if you start putting it that way, it does suggest, well, there's somewhere up there he doesn't exist. That's not what this terminology means. What it means is, it means what it says. That's to say, there is no contradiction in the suggestion of there is no God. It might have been that is no contradiction in supposing that it might have been that way.